Hey, hi, hello friends. We are in my bedroom because it's the only place that actually has good lighting right now. And we are here to talk about my December wrap-up. Today is December 29th. Oh my god. It's just so weird that this year is like already coming to a close. I read 23 books in the month of December, and we're going to talk about some of my favorites. My first favorite book that I read in December is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. And so this is about the, honestly, like, just most precious, adorable teenager, Liz, who wants to go to this prestigious school where she wants to basically become, I think, a hematologist, someone who like studies blood. And unfortunately her financial aid sort of fell through, and so she decides to make up the money. She will run for prom queen. And this is in sort of like a small Indiana town where everything is, everything feels so much more intense. Which I definitely understand. Being from the Midwest, it's just like, oh my god, who's gonna win homecoming queen? It's such a big deal. But, so to sort of amp up the drama even more, Liz is also a black woman, and she is also gay. So she is dealing with so much, like, actual stress, I would say, compared to the normal, like, teenage stress, am I gonna get my homework done, And I felt like this book was so extremely, like, cutesy and romantic, but also hard-hitting for me in issues like racism and homophobia. And I feel like this would be a great read for, anyone in, high school or even beyond. The next book that I read and loved was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. And so this book has been compared to The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, which at first I thought was going to be like, that's a strong statement that you're making there. And it lived up to it. So it follows a boy named Piranesi as he is navigating through this labyrinth. And there are a few people that he meets along the way. Things are strange, and not everything is as it seems. And so this was just a beautifully crafted book. I really enjoyed everything within it. It felt multimedia, which is a big buzzword for me, because you were able to read Piranesi's journal entries. But it was also just sort of transcendent in a way. I felt like I came out of the book with sort of a better understanding of what transcendent thinking is, and sort of the cult of personality idea that is focused on in this book. The next book that I read was the abridged version of The Princess Bride by William Goldman. And so I didn't know that there was an original, like, actual Princess Bride that's like hundreds of pages long and talks about a lot of like tree species things and is very satirical. But I read this one and it was so good. Here it's so easy just because William Goldman, he abridged it and he wrote the screenplay for the movie. So it's, when a book is exactly like the movie, it's perfect. You also got to sort of like hear about his relationship with like Andre the Giant, and sort of how this book came to be and how, it almost didn't. And I thought it was just so good. If you love the movie, read the abridged version. So this is like, it's not old by any means, but it's not like a new 2020 release or anything. And it is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This follows a girl who is driving to see her mom who's dying of cancer, and is basically forced to pull over because of a massive snowstorm. And you know, everything's going fine. You know, she's meeting the people that are in the rest area with her, and when she goes out to like try and make a phone call or send a text, right, because the reception is not good because of the snow and also because, you know, you're just sort of in the middle of nowhere, she sees a little girl caged in the back of a van. And so there are only 5 people in this rest area, and so it's up to her to figure out who of them is the one who captured this girl, and she wants to be able to also set her free. And so there is a lot of nuance in this book, like lots of twists, lots of turns. And when I say twists and turns, I'm like, we're talking like U-turns, skidding across 5 lanes of traffic. Like, those are the twists and turns that I'm talking about. My camera is diagonal. Whatever. Like, while this is not, like, maybe my favorite thriller of the year, it's really good. Like, I am so happy, and I cannot wait to read the next book that they come out with. The next book that I read was The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. And as you guys know, this was one of my like most anticipated be-all end-all TBRs, and I was not disappointed. It was very, very good. She is able to create such a compelling world with a unique system of magic that I think, like, the comparisons of this to Six of Crows are fair, and there's definitely some turn of the screws happening in here, but this is a book that is sort of like a very beautiful introduction to fantasy, I would say. Next, I read The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abby Daré, and this book, okay, first of all, it's sad. Like, it's sad. It's a young Nigerian woman who is working her way out of poverty and indenturement because she's married off to a villager, and she doesn't like it, and she runs away and then is in a basically a servant in another woman's home, and she has to face all sorts of issues, like, I mean, being a woman, which is rough enough, but she's also trying to learn how to better sort of like read and write, and she just wants to be a girl with a louding voice where people will listen to her and things like that. And over the course of the book, she does. The next book that I read and loved was The Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakrabarty. So this is a point of contention between Gil and I. He started The City of Brass and did not like it, and so he DNF'd it. Basically, he said that it took too long for the story to start, and like he stopped reading it before the story started, basically. And I am the complete opposite. Like, I enjoyed the entire journey to Daevabad, and as Daevabad was like heating up, like Kingdom of Copper, you're there the whole time, like figuring everything out, and then in Empire of Gold, like, I mean, I cannot say anything about this book without spoiling the second book, and I don't think I can say anything about the second book without spoiling the first book. But let me tell you, if you liked the first book, City of Brass, it sticks the landing. Like, this is the perfect ending to this series. And, like, oof. I also read Shipt by Angie Hockman, and this was an arc from NetGalley. So this comes out on January 19th. So technically, like, I mean, I'm reading a book from 2021, which is so weird for me, but this is a romantic comedy following a woman named Henley who is in the marketing business for a cruise company, and she has a rival in her mind, Graham, which has such a weird spelling. This is probably like a real name, like a British name or something. She is competing with him to basically become the director of digital marketing at this company. And so they are trying to better market their cruises for the Galapagos. And their boss basically says to them, okay, well, you know, go on the cruise and when you come back, pitch it to me, you know, give me your idea. And so she goes on this cruise with basically her mortal enemy. But when they're on the ship, she starts to realize that maybe she was mistaken. It's definitely like an enemies to lovers romance, but there's so much more in this book that makes it compelling, because, you know, I'm not usually like, I don't normally sing praises about like rom-coms, but this one, and the last book that I read and adored in December, or at least before December 29th, is 10 Arrows of Iron by Sam Sykes. Dan, you can rejoice. I read it. I loved it. It's good. So this is the second book in the Grave of Empires series, which is following Sal the Cacophony, a vagrant, a tattooed, badass woman who is sassy and has a lot of trauma. And this is a big book, which is why it took me a while to read it. I had to sort of like gear up to it. I didn't realize I could make that noise with my mouth. But basically, Sal is still at it, and she gets sort of lured into this very appealing heist scheme because the basically, you know, the Danny Ocean or whatever, the head honcho in charge, tells her that he will be able to find the people on her list. And this is her list for revenge. So if you read the first book, you'll understand why she wants this revenge on people and how important this sort of fundamentally is to her. And so she was a little hesitant, but joins this heist. And so we get to meet a new group of vagrants who aren't immediately trying to kill Sal, which is great. And we get more history sort of in the background of Sal's life when she was an Imperial. And I think that absolutely you should read Seven Blades in Black. It's one of my top reads that I read in 2020. 10 Arrows of Iron, I think I actually liked better. That might be a hot take, I don't know. Just because of the character growth that Sal goes through. But that's my December wrap up. If you want to see what I thought about the other, 10 or so books that I read, you can find me on Goodreads. I post a review for basically every book that I read, unless I really don't like it. And I post a rating for every book I read also. But you can add me on Goodreads, we can be friends. I can see what you're reading, you can see what I'm reading. It'll be cool. Why am I like this? Comment down below what you read in December, and if you've read any of the books that I was talking about. And, as always, keep reading.